Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in the studio again, and it's important, I believe, in our little world here to have the knowledge, to have the information pertaining to whatever it is you need to make it on this little planet. And I tell you, there's one element that most people are familiar with all of their lives. Since you're a kid, you'd see the sun come up, you see the sun go down.
Yeah.
The sun has been the mainstay. Whereas I love seeing that sunset, but it's also a huge source of energy that seems like it's almost gone untapped.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And it was like, gosh, it's such an immense resource. Hey, there's some companies out there, some businesses, some owners who said, hey, I can help people with this. Talk a little about your company. Ladies and gentlemen, Clayton Logomasini, owner of Solar Pals.
That's right.
And solar, I want a buddy. I want my pal to help show me this stuff, man.
Yeah.
So welcome to the studio.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
And talk a little bit about what you're doing here and how you think you're going to be able to help a lot of people.
So Solar Pals, we've been in business since 2020, and really the first 6 months, 7 months or so was just kind of vetting our install crews and really kind of making sure that we have the ideal setup so that we can offer the perfect product to our customers. You know, the processes, the people. You know, and just making sure that it's a world-class experience from start to finish. And so, you know, with solar being relatively new in the Midwest and in the markets that we sell in, we need to make sure that we had the proper training for the installation and all the licensing and permitting and everything that we need on our end to be able to, you know, make sure that we're doing the world-class job that we want to do for our customers. So now currently we're selling in Missouri, Kansas, and Arkansas. We're one of the few people that will go to the entire state, which is a big benefit because a lot of the people in some of the more rural areas, you know, solar either makes sense for you or doesn't. So it doesn't matter if you're in a rural area or urban area. But, you know, I think a lot of people that live out further in the country too and you know, really like the idea of the energy independence and owning their power. So
yeah, you make a lot of good points there, and from the perspective that, wow, we could go a lot of different directions here. First, I want to find out, what was your passion? What we said, and I know you as a businessman here in St. Louis. We're in St. Louis, Missouri, everybody, and just somebody who's stood out in our community for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
really helping St. Louis and helping. I mean, you were on a national level at that time in a different industry, and now I see. Why did you decide to get into this industry, and is it something where you really feel like you can make an impact?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that question because that's why I'm so passionate about this. You know, I love watching people succeed, watching people grow. And so I've always been in sales and marketing and various other industries as well too. And so when I first found out about solar, I was just blown away. So I call it, you know, the hat trick of basically products, if you will. We win because we get to make some money.
Sure.
The customer wins because they get to save money, they get to own their power, and they get to reallocate basically money that's already being spent and basically thrown out the window, you know, for renting power, and now they get to own it at equity to their property. So it's a big win for them. And then the environment wins because it's clean, sustainable energy. So I can't think of too many other things where everybody wins, and it's allowed us to build a really strong team that everyone there is passionate about it. I mean, I've never been involved with a group. I mean, I love running teams and building organizations. That's, you know, what I've done in my career. And, you know, the opportunity that this presents just because everybody's winning at the end of the day, and the excitement and the passion that people walk into the office every day with is just, it blows my mind. It's something that, to me, the people, the culture, you know, that's some of the most important stuff, and it gives me goosebumps to kind of get to do that. And so I'm just thankful that the opportunity exists and that I get to help people and help families, and we really enjoy what we do. So
You spend a lot of time in your house.
Yeah.
We need to take advantage of this resource we have and make this happen. Is this the path you think this is where the world's going to go?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's cleaner, sustainable energy. Your lights turn on exactly the same way, so there's no difference there. But from a cost standpoint, it's cheaper. So, you know, it's relatively new to the Midwest market, solar, you know, and financially it didn't make a lot of sense up until, you know, maybe like about 5 years ago. The actual cost to go solar has came down pretty significantly. And so what we do is we create a custom savings report for all of our customers and potential customers.
I saw one of those. They ran one for me.
Yeah, so we can basically, you know, extrapolate the numbers out. We know exactly based on your property, the way that it's positioned, the roof, the azimuth, the tilt, everything. We can get in there and we can actually figure out exactly on a very conservative level how much production that your system is going to produce for you, and then we take that and we look at how much energy you're actually consuming on your property on a month-to-month basis, and we put together some conservative estimates on our end so that we under promise and over deliver at the end of the day. And kind of back to it's new in this area because it didn't make a lot of sense. So on the coastlines, for example, in California, New York, I was talking to somebody in Long Island the other day, and they're paying like 23 cents per kilowatt hour, for power, and they have $800-900 power bills, on average in the summer. So I think people in this area now are really starting to understand the money that they can save by going solar, and it's been hot lately, and so the biggest power bills of the month or the year are coming in. You always remember the highest one and the lowest one, right?
Right.
So we're getting a lot of calls this time of the year, and we've been able to save people quite a bit of money. And sometimes they're interested in using more power. Sometimes they want to save money. Sometimes they just want to go green. So it kind of goes back to that, everybody wins. There's a lot of different reasons to go solar.
What's a normal person go through? As a matter of fact, tell me some of the reasons somebody says, I don't quite understand this. I'm not sure why I should do this.
Yeah.
You've touched on some of those, but give me a little more of the details, specifics. So if somebody says, I just don't quite get it. And I think you've nailed this down, because I did go through the analysis and I'm like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is
Right.
like crazy not to do it. It seems like it's for
Yeah.
anybody that will be the case,
Right.
if they would just take a chance to look at this, right?
Yeah, I think that's all it's about, is just having an open mind to it, because, as I was telling you previously, you don't really get a lot of objections from people, or they may have concerns, but usually those concerns are very easily addressed because it just is a lack of experience with it. Do you know anybody that has a solar system on their house? Firsthand, family member, anybody, close friend?
Yeah, no, I honestly don't.
Yeah.
It was kind of one of those things. I have some properties out in the further out lands, and so
Yeah.
you could be driving down the highway. Oh, there's one right there. You say, who are those guys?
See them from the street.
Yeah, they got panels on their roof. I wonder how's that work. But
Yeah.
talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was always me before, wondering how that works. That's interesting. And really, before I got involved in it, I didn't know much of anything about it. And then the more and more I got educated, the more and more I researched, I started realizing how much sense it actually makes. So I think that once people look at it, I always say, solar sells itself. It's not a hard decision. We're going to present the facts to you. It's going to be a simple A/B comparison. Hey, stick with the power company. Here's what you're looking at over the course of 25, 30 years that your system's going to be performing. All our systems come with a 25-year warranty, but they'll actually perform past that as well too. So we're just going to break the numbers down for you based on how big your system is and how much power you're using, and then we take into consideration: do you plan on getting an electric vehicle? Are you going to have more or less people living in the house in 5 to 10 years? How many people are currently living in the home? So we'll analyze the entire situation, and we'll put together a savings report based on what we, the production of your system and what you're using, basically, and then the cost. One of the things about solar is it's a hedge against inflation. So with energy prices where they are now, and then, a lot of people that we talk to in Missouri, Kansas, and Arkansas, they've already received letters from the utility company saying that there's a rate increase coming. And so, they send these letters out, and you have no control. You can't control any of that. You can try to control, how much power you're using, but then you're sacrificing, and so, everybody likes, I don't know if you're like me and my wife, but basically she, I set it to where I want to pay the bill, and she sets it to where she's comfortable. So,
Right.
Most relationships are like that. But so it again, it puts you in control. It gives you another option. Like, for example, who's your power company here?
I use Ameren. Yeah, so Ameren
Ameren,
is
okay.
Historically, and I actually, since I moved here, now I'm Quiver River.
Okay.
And so it's kind of interesting, 'cause most of St. Louis
Yeah.
is Ameren, but I'm a little bit just outside of the St. Louis metro area, so Quiver River. But those are two of the big, everybody knows
Sure.
Ameren, right, in the St. Louis area.
Right.
And so, yeah, how does that impact
Well,
me?
where I was going with that is, why did you pick, when we switched from Quiver River from Ameren, did you have a choice in that?
I moved.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
That was a move.
Because I moved,
Yeah.
that's when it changed.
So Quiver River, so
And there was no choice.
yeah, there's no choice. Exactly. So, That's the whole thing. Now there is a choice. People are just used to paying the bill. It comes every month, just like, their parents did and their grandparents. And so it's just kind of ingrained in people that's how it works. And so people that, that are interested and say, hey, that's something intriguing. I think everybody should understand their options, and what is actually available to them, because it hasn't been in this area relatively long that it has been available. And now that it is, I think that everybody should take a look at the numbers. It wouldn't make sense not to.
And here we are, and I looked at the numbers, and I'm like, holy cow, I'm going to have this system that's going to give me some sense of independence, a little bit of where I can have a little more control,
Yeah.
and I'm going to save money on top of it, and with a bunch of tax incentives and rebates.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that and why that's so important.
So as far as the tax credit, that's good through the end of the year. It's at 26%. So basically, whatever the total cost of the system is, you will receive a tax credit for 26% of that system cost, and you have up to 5 years to collect that. And so it's a big motivator to it makes the numbers look that much better, because when we look at the net system cost, basically after the tax credit, if you choose to apply that money basically to your system, you're going to see additional savings there, and even more savings. Some utility companies actually have rebates as well too, depending on where you're located and who your utility is, where they actually will cut you a rebate check, and that's your money. You can choose to do whatever you want with it. So after this year, after December 31st, anything that is not installed, that tax credit is stepping down to 22% actually. And then after 2023, it's scheduled to go away. So there'll be no more tax credit. So there is a lot of conversation about extending that out, and a lot of people are pushing for that. But there's no guarantee, and nobody has a crystal ball to know. So really makes the best time now.
We talked a little about the tax savings. I mean, is how much? Before we move on, I want to talk about, there's discussion that's out there on the internet. I do a little research on my own. Obviously, anybody can do that. I'm one of these guys that will stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning before I make any kind of decision, all right, with regard to a lot of stuff. But when I see the numbers and I've realized what it's got,
Yeah.
I'm all in.
Right.
That's why I say I can't wait to get the full report from you guys about how much I'm going to save.
Right.
As we analyze closer. The tax piece, when it comes down to it, lay that out for everybody. You talked about the fact that it does expire. I don't want people to feel like that's the only thing that makes this worthwhile. That's a huge benefit right now that people should really take advantage of, right?
Yeah, that's just an additional benefit. Yeah, the numbers, and we can run the numbers, with it and without it as well too. It doesn't, after it expires, it doesn't make solar not make sense anymore. I always tell people it either makes sense to you or it doesn't. We put together an A/B comparison, and either you kind of see it or you don't. But at the end of the day, you got to realize that you're one way or another, you're spending the money. So would you rather just throw it out the window, give it to the power company, have nothing to show for it, or would you rather reallocate that money you're already spending and build equity in your home, own your solar system? Once you're done paying for it, now you're producing power for free. It's pretty cut and dry. If your property qualifies, that's really the first key to make sure that your property is going to qualify, just from the roof, the angles, the way it's laid out. How many sun hours on average per day does the roof actually get? Because if the panels aren't getting sun, of course it's not going to work for you. So there are a few things like that come into play. But all in all, most people, it makes sense, and it saves them a lot of money.
Yeah, well, the tax component is one thing that definitely is to consider, but when you really analyze the whole thing. Next interesting topic that has become a discussion I see people talking about, energy costs continue to rise. They're up 70, I look at my number here, it's 70%. That's almost double, not quite double, you're 3/4 almost of the cost it was just 10 years ago.
Right.
So if you're going up at that rate, people are going to end up spending $1,000 a month before too long, and that'll be normal.
Yeah.
And for your average little house, that's kind of scary. Talk about that for me.
Yeah.
Help us keep it in perspective a little bit.
Well, it's the compounding interest rule, right? So even if it increases, we usually use an estimate of about 4% annually. One thing we install in the entire state of Missouri, all of Kansas, and all of Arkansas, right? So there is about 250, 260 different utility companies in Missouri and in Kansas. So each of them, whether it's a co-op or whoever it is, one of the main players, they get to make the rules on what they do with their rates. And then there's other outside factors that impact that, of course, as well too, and the cost of fuel for them. So there's just a lot of moving components in there. And so by going solar, you're taking that out of the equation, right? You're putting yourself in control. So Carter, if I could, tell you that, hey, I'm going to lock in your power bill right now for the next 25 years, and then after that, it's going to be free. I mean, that's a hedge against inflation? You would take that advantage of that, right? I mean,
and that's why I want people to keep it in perspective. We're not saying that you're going to get that kind of an increase in your electrical bill, but who knows? And even if it's at the 4% rate you're talking, add that up. 4 times 4, that's just 4 years. You're 16%. What if there's something crazier that happens beyond that? And if you're protecting yourself by saying you can lock in. Explain to people how they lock in per se.
Yeah, so kind of backtrack a little bit to that 4%. I mean, that's a very conservative estimate, and it comes back to under promise and over deliver, right? So the savings that we're going to give you, or that we're going to estimate, and I mean, nobody has a crystal ball, right? But I think that most people would agree, especially in the current environment and inflation where it is, that prices aren't going to come down probably anytime soon. I think that would be a safe statement to make, I guess. We use an industry term called offset, and basically what we're going to do in your custom savings report is we're going to determine how much of your production, how much of your consumption actually that you're currently pulling from the power company, how much of that can we offset with the production of your solar system, okay? And that's going to be a percentage. Sometimes, depending on the property type, it might be less than 100%. It might be less than 90%. Let's say, for example, like on the very lowest end, it's 50% or 60%, right? And that's just because maybe it's the roof space and the house isn't very energy efficient, so it's very high usage for the size of the property, for example. And sometimes the customer's concern, or at least initially what they're thinking is, well, why would I want to do this? Because I'm only, saving on half of my power. Well, saving on any portion of it's better than not saving at all, right?
Right.
But it's that whole idea of not necessarily even just saving, but the hedge against inflation and locking the price in. So, if I would have told you a year ago, that you could install a gas pump at your house and it's going to be good to fill up half your tank, but only half your tank. It's going to be 15 cents more though than what it currently is now, but it'll be locked in at that for eternity. Would you have taken advantage of that looking back?
Well, of course. I mean,
of course.
Looking back. If that was an option, even at regular, that's what I'm saying, inflation rates, you would definitely take advantage of that. Yeah. And we see this craziness that we've seen in our environment now. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just, that's what you're really allowing people to do.
That's exactly right. And when people start kind of, a lot of times, you'll kind of see the light bulb go on. The numbers, like I say, it sells itself. The numbers are what they are. Numbers don't lie. And so that's exactly what you're doing. You're putting yourself in a position where you're in control.
A couple key points I wanted to help emphasize there. That number one, most people know this, but they don't really pay much attention to it. Your bill tells you exactly how much energy is being used every month, right? It's metered. Yeah. And people are like, how do they know? How can they calculate that? It's documented. That's part of the way they bill, right? Yeah. If you ever analyze your bill, it shows you the amount of watts you're using per day or
kilowatt hours. Yeah.
And so they know exactly what you're using. So now you can say, hey, when we put these kind of panels, now people would help obviously understand that when the Google Earth, right? They have an analysis. They can look at everybody's roof. That's what it looked like. They look at the Google Earth, the Google Maps type analysis, and they can. I know roofing guys. They can analyze your roof without even looking at it. They look on Google Maps and they can see the size, the square footage. And now you're talking about the azimuth, the angle, the trajectory of the sun that comes down there. All of this can be done without even having to go visit somebody because the data is all available. Now you can really calculate down to the kilowatt surface area of sun liability you have, or I should say resources you have, and really predict what you're going to get. Is that true? I mean, you can't say because sometimes it's cloudy or whatever, but even at worst case scenarios, like my roof's dynamite, south, northeast, I've got so much room, and it can really help. Explain that to people so they understand.
Yeah, so with the design tools, as you were mentioning, I mean, our numbers are very accurate, even doing it all virtually and remotely. So, we're within a couple % of accuracy. But we also don't take any chances. So, things that we might not know, like the condition of your roof and things of that nature, the panel, your main panel and things like that, the service coming into the property. So we actually, for every, everybody that signs with us, if we're not doing it in person, we actually send somebody out. We do a site survey. We take pictures of the property, measurements, depending if it's a roof mount or a ground mount. So we send somebody there, and then we bring all of that back to the engineering team, and they get all the final drawings and everything. And the design basically initially is preliminary until the engineers sign off on it and stamp it if needed, and the customer actually gets to approve that final design as well too.
So literally, people do not have to pay out of pocket. Explain why you can make such an assessment and help people to get into this.
So as far as the programs, there's some different finance products and things like that we offer. Very low interest rates in comparison to where we're at with rates right now and what's recently happened here. So our rates are much more competitive than that, and it's no money out of pocket. It's no money down, no upfront cost. So it's not going to cost you anything more to go solar and to own your power than it is to rent your power that you currently are already paying. No more money, nothing out of pocket, nothing up front. All the system. I mean, of course, if you want to put some money down, if you want to pay cash, you're good. If you have credit, you're good. But you don't have to come out of pocket at all.
And essentially, then you're giving yourself a resource that once you've got this energy producing system on your roof, that just makes me feel good to think, because it's something you own, like you're talking about. A lot of people, that same concept. Somebody who's been in the financial world for a long time, mortgage world, people always want to own rather than rent. And it's because it gives you that security to say, you can't just kick me out of my house if I own it, right? You can't just take away my power if I own it. That's empowering to imagine, because I just know that there are so many vital things that we count on. I mean, is it possible that we could survive without power, without energy? Boy, they talk about, not to get off on too much of a crazy tangent, but if there was ever any kind of a crazy situation, the first thing they try to do is take out the power that people have, because that really limits their ability to sustain themselves. And I mean, I just never want to be in that kind of position. But this is something that really just lets people be owners of their power. Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
it gives you that independence. We do offer battery backup as well too. That we have a battery sizing tool basically, so we could go through an analysis with you and say, hey, in the event of an outage, do you have any critical health devices that would need to be powered? The refrigerator, your main components, obviously the HVAC, those type of things. So depending on what exactly you're trying to power in the event of an outage, we can basically, with our tool, size that for you and let you know how many kilowatts of battery backup you would actually need in order to maintain, the property for X amount of time. So a lot of people will say, okay, I'm interested in the backup. My main thing is savings though, so I don't want too much battery backup to kind of offset those savings, but I do want some because of these reasons. And so in that scenario, they know they have something, and it's that peace of mind that, hey, if something does happen, I know that I'm going to be able to power myself for X amount of time, and it's really gives people that peace of mind and that independence that they're looking for.
Another thing that was important, I've researched, a lot of people don't realize this, but this increases the value of your house. To have a solar system actually makes your house worth more money.
Yeah.
For the reasons we're talking about.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's an asset. It's something that you own. And so when you put it on your roof and you're producing your own power, and eventually that system will be paid for and you won't be paying anything for it, and you'll still be producing power. So that's an asset. It's something that you own. So it's going to increase the value of your home. Every time you make the payment, while you're making that payment, you're going to be increasing the equity in your house. And so it goes back to the same thing, I've been saying, not to beat a dead horse here, but it's either you rent it or you buy it, and you decided to buy your house for a reason, right?
When you have a payment for the system and a bill for your electric still, but at such a reduced cost, the metering in there helps you to calculate. You'll know, you can predict with a high level of accuracy, because you know the past data. You have the angles of the sun and the pitch of the roof and everything that you need to know, so you can essentially help predict what they're going to pay. And then the metering helps to monitor and track that, right?
Yeah, exactly. We usually get 12 months of historical data as far as what amount of energy they've been using and consuming over the last 12 months, because depending on if it's heat, if it's electric heat pump or if it's gas in the winter. So everybody's situation is a little bit different. But basically what happens is we size the system according to their production and how many panels we can fit on the roof, the size of their system. And what we're going to do, or what actually the utility company does, after the system is installed, they come out and they put a bidirectional meter if the property doesn't already have one. And some areas they already are installed and it's solar ready, if you will, and sometimes they have to actually come out and swap the meter out after the system is installed. But either way, that new meter, what it's going to do is it's going to calculate how much power they're actually producing. And so during the day when the sun is out, you're going to be producing more power than what you're actually using, and that power is going to be pushed back to the grid. And so what they're going to do is they're going to use that excess power to offset, and you basically get credited for that. And at night when the clouds are out, when it's raining, when your system's not producing, you're able to use those credits. And that whole process is called net metering. And that is just, we haven't touched a lot upon that, and that makes it even that much better, because there's months where, depending on your usage and your consumption habits, most of our customers have numerous months throughout the year where their system's going to be producing more power than what they're actually using. So they can use that additional power, depending on the net metering policy of the utility company. Sometimes that rolls over, sometimes they true up on a month-to-month basis. There's some different things that we explain to the customer on their exact net metering policies that their utility company has to make sure everything's clear. So
what do people have to worry about with regard to hail damage? Not very often, but in the Midwest, do people get hit? Very, very rarely does somebody get hit by multiple storms. Mm-hmm. I happen to have one storm here, and it wasn't even hail. I've never actually been hit by hail that I know of. I'm sure the roofing guy might come over and say, "Oh, I've got a storm I can track that showed that," but obviously, but these things are durable. These things are built.
Oh yeah.
And talk a little bit about the sustainability of these particular units that you use that go on your roof.
I don't want to say that they're indestructible, but I mean they're built to last. You're not going to have any issues with hail or anything like that. I mean, if it's some type of a once in 100-year catastrophic type event, maybe so. So I can't say 100%, but your typical hailstorm, you're not going to have zero impact on your panels. They're built to withstand that.
Well, that's important, because a lot of people are going, I'm going to spend a lot of money on these things. I don't want to have to get them replaced. But these all come with a 25-year warranty. Is that true? Yeah,
25-year warranty, basically bumper to bumper. And that's the workmanship as well, too. So not only the equipment, but the workmanship and the roof underneath the panels as well.
Great. Well, that's important for peace of mind. How long does it typically take for a system to be installed?
Most of the time we can get it done in one day. Sometimes a day and a half, 2 days max. If it's a ground mount system, that's going to take us a little bit longer because of the racking system and some trenching and things like that need to be done. But other than that, most of the time we start early in the day and we're done by dark.
Solar Pals, ladies and gentlemen, go solarpals.com. Logomasini, Mr. Logomasini. Clayton, appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for sharing your knowledge with us.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
All right, stay tuned for more, everybody. We'll be back.